We open the round with Mr. Brazan, 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and congratulations, General Kerrigan, on your appointment as CDS, and you as well, General Kelsey. Welcome to the position. Looking forward to our ongoing productive relationship. And your predecessors have always talked very plainly and bluntly with committee and explaining the threat environment that we're facing and the readiness of the Canadian Armed Forces. And you mentioned your 3 R's: retention, recruitment, and readiness. So let's drill down on that. Last time that General Eyre appeared here, he was talking about being 16,000 troops short from where we need to be from full strength, and a further 10,000 members of the Canadian Armed Forces who are undertrained and undeployable. Do you have an update on those numbers? Where are we today on how short we are and how unprepared some of our members are?
Thank you, Mr. President. So in terms of regular forces members, we are now at 63,622 in terms of numbers. And then reserve forces, 29,176 in terms of numbers, for a total of 92,798. And that's as of 31st of August. So the numbers do vary on a daily basis, but overall, when we are looking at our numbers and then the rate of attrition, we are fairly at a balanced number for this past year. So this year we are looking at recruiting to our maximum numbers of numbers, so it's 6,400. We are currently at 2,400 in terms of recruiting, with another 1,000 who have been made an offer to join. So we are roughly halfway within our strategic intake targets this year, and then we're tracking on that in that area.
Just a clarification on the 6,400 max recruit. You've got 2,400 so far. Is that the maximum that we could put through at basic training at this point in time?
At this point in time, yes. We are currently exploring ways of increasing that number as well. So I don't want to stop recruiting if more people come in, and then we can recruit them and make offers them to join the CAF. So we are exploring ways of expanding our basic military qualification as well as the rest of the qualification in terms of the various trades that we need to train people post basic military training. So we are in the middle of working this plan currently, but the strategic intake of 6,400 is what we are aiming for, at least for this year, and if we can, going above that.
So let's balance that off against the outflow. How many members of Canadian Armed Forces are leaving every year?
So the number of 6,400 does account for the normal attrition that we have, along with increasing the demands that we see. Basically, the numbers are planned so that within the next 5 years, going back to our numbers to our full strength, and they do account for attrition number as well. But if we can do it faster, this is what we are aiming for as well at the same time.
We had Professor Rob Hubert here on Tuesday, and he said that the state of military readiness in Canada hasn't been at this low level since 1938, going into World War II. You talked about readiness. We talk about resources, and the human resources, one side of that, and we're still short of the brave women and men who serve in the Canadian Armed Forces. We need more great Canadians to step up and serve. But you're also dealing with a budget cut. According to the numbers from the parliamentary library and the analysts that we have at committee here, the actual expenditures under the Department of National Defence and the Canadian Armed Forces is now under 1% of GDP at 0.95. And you're also dealing with a budget cut, which General Eyre just said was more than challenging. It was essentially undermining the ability for the armed forces to maintain a level of readiness. We're hearing stories about budget cuts impacting upon maintenance and overhaul of military equipment and being able to deploy that equipment. And we're also seeing the amount of training activity also on the decline. Can you comment on how that budget is impacting day-to-day operations?
So we are currently working on a way ahead for the path to the 2% new investments coming into defense. So it's always a balance between being good custodians of public funds as well as increased investments. So those increased investments will allow us to invest into our recruitment processes, will allow us to invest in the people space, what we see in terms of housing, childcare, and so on. But on top of that, will allow us as well to create more operational readiness, so the sustainment and all of that. So it's a balance in between the two.
Those investments
basically
are going in housing, and when there's no money in the DPU or in the budget for military housing this year, next year, and the year after that, and it's all backloaded in 3 years' time, and even that doesn't build the 6,700 residential housing units that the Canadian Armed Forces is short today.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to leave the question and answer there. Just as a point of clarification, the 6,400 number that you used, is that a net number by the time you leave, number leaving and number recruiting, you're 6,400 ahead at the end of the year?
No, so the strategic intake plan is based on the forecasted level of attrition. So we need to account for people we are expecting will be leaving on an annual basis. And it's also based on the number of people we need for various trades within the forces. So with all of that together, we come up with the number of 6,400 in terms of strategic intake. It's also based on our capacity to train, basic military qualification, and then further down the training path for all of our personnel. In terms of the capacity as well to bring them to their qualification. So it does account for that. And then the path that we are on is we want to come back to our full strength within the next 5 years. So this is what the number that will allow us to do that. Okay,
thank you for that. Unfortunately, I'm in this position. I would further question. But anyways, there are those who wish I wasn't. Mr. Stewart, you have 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, General Carignan and Lieutenant General Kelsey. It's a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for the good work that you and the entire Armed Forces team does behind you. I wanted to think back to last winter when there was an announcement of rent hikes that were coming through for military housing that were to be effective April 1st. And around the same time, we saw stories about soldiers and sailors and air people who had either lived in their vehicles or were couch surfing for lack of affordable housing, whether on base or off. And I just think about the destruction to morale that may have caused. And I wonder what you saw on the ground from a morale standpoint when those rent hikes were announced.
So, Mr. President, the housing and accommodation issues for our personnel is a key point for us. It's extremely important. Having been moved more than 13 times, if my count is correct, we understand the need to provide proper support for our folks who we are asking to serve and move regularly as part of their duties. So we do understand the need, and we do understand as well that the housing issues are also lived and experienced by Canadians as well overall. But we are putting forward many initiatives to enable the housing and enable our members to be more mobile Currently, we have a few things ongoing. We need to understand that we currently operate 11,700 residential house in 27 different locations for our members. We are building 1,400 new homes over the next 5 years on various bases. And then we are renovated 2,500 units as well to maintain our residential homes in a good condition over many different bases across Canada. This is also layered with benefits for our folks. The needs are very different depending on the family, depending on the personal situations. So it's a layered approach, and not all members require the same type of support as we are asking them to serve. So we have the Canadian Forces housing differential as well that has been implemented to enable our folks to move, of which 28,000 CAF members are actually benefit. Not everything is perfect. We understand the difficulties that our members are encountering, but we are regularly gathering the feedback, understand the experience, and consistently striving at improving that situation for all of our members.
Okay, thank you. I was wondering, sometimes it's hard for people to think of in terms of number of housing units. But when we think about that 11,000 units, I think I saw in the DPU that we were short 7,000, around 7,000, using 6,000 or 7,000. And there's $295 million that are earmarked to be spent, I think, up until 33. That works out to about $1,800 per housing unit over that span of time. And I think that, when you think about that amount of money to build 2,500 renos and for a short 6,000 units, does the government need to think about allocating more money to housing? And is that a way that we can raise morale in the forces, a fairly low-cost way of doing it? Because at a time when we need the most out of our people, can we spend our money on our people? In the DPU, there were 36 recommendations. 25% of them had to do with HR. And to me, this is a key one. And like I said, when we need the most out of our people, is this a great way to target that?
Please.
So broadly speaking, and then I'll ask the Vice to come in on this one, but broadly speaking, the first priority as we harness the new investments, the people space is where we are going to be focusing our efforts. So housing is one of those, sustainment is another one. All of that focus on people is where we want to go first in terms of foundational work that we want to do with our forces. But housing is part of the priorities where we want to invest early in the process.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to leave the answer there. Ms. Galan, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And certainly the $345,000 the government spent on Russian propaganda film, Russia at War, would have been more better suited towards getting equipment for our troops. And my questions will be to the General Carignan. What does strategic recruitment mean, and does it mean that there are still quotas?
Strategic recruitment, I'm not sure, Mr. President, that I understand what strategic recruitment is. For me, it's recruitment, pure and simple. We need to get our numbers back up to full strength, and we are aiming towards achieving our targets this year. And if we can go over, we will absolutely look at doing that as well. So we have targets, we have anticipated numbers that we are looking at reaching. And again, depending on who is showing up, with what qualification, with what potential, we are going to be recruiting across the full Canadian diversity. So this is basically what we are looking at.
So what are the targets?
So, for example, we are looking at achieving a 25% target in terms of women as part of our forces. We are looking at a global goal of visible minorities of 11.8% and 3.5% in Indigenous people. So we want to make sure, again, that we have a representation of all Canadians as part of our forces.
Do these quotas apply per trade?
No. So these are total numbers that we are aiming for. And again, we want to give people the choice in terms of where they think they can best contribute to our forces.
And how will you confront the growing unexpected threats posed by state actors such as Russia, China, and Iran, and also the non-state actors that persistently conduct cyber attacks against our infrastructure and institutions and our military?
So, Mr. President, after this committee, we will be officially standing up our cyber command. Over the past 10 years, we have growing this capability. And we are very proud of the work that has been achieved so far. Our cyber command, our cyber capabilities have been contributed in many places, all of which in Ukraine as well, and extremely proud of that capacity that we have been standing up and growing over the past 10 years. And then just today, we will be officially standing up the command.
How many people will there be in that command? What number of soldiers?
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head.
Hopefully.
Yes, and I
Like
don't think I can
20,
share.
30, 50?
Again, I don't think I can share those numbers, but what's important to us is the effects that they are delivering.
So during your predecessor's time, he was forced to deal with a very bad hand on defense spending for our armed forces, and given the severe cuts this government has implemented, how would you confront the minister were they to propose further cuts to defense that would certainly further limit operational capabilities in our armed forces? Our
role really is to balance all of those issues, what we are being asked to do versus the resources we are provided with. It is clear that we need to sequence, we need to prioritize. We won't be able to do everything at the same time. But again, my job as a Chief of Defense Staff is to ensure that we can deliver the capabilities with the funding envelope that we are being provided.
Thank you.